Hi everyone, welcome to Sho-Time Talk. This is your host, Tom Shimura. 皆さんこんにちは。Sho-Time トークを運営する志村朋哉です。このチャンネルではアメリカの専門家を交えて大谷翔平選手やメジャーリーグについて本音で語っています。最後までお楽しみください。Hi Jeff.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. And you're in Minnesota covering the Angels-Twins series, right? How's the city of Minnesota? What is it like?
This is one of my favorite cities in the American League. It's really clean and there's a lot of new stuff, and the ballpark is great. It's one of my favorite ballparks, and there's lots of hotels and restaurants and stuff like that, all within walking distance, and it's a nice airport. It's usually nice weather in the summer. It's a little hot right now, and if you come in April, it can be a little cold, but generally it's pretty nice.
How are the Angels looking in the second half so far?
Not too good. They lost 4 of their first 5 games. They definitely needed to play a lot better to really feel good about their chances of getting in the playoff race, especially with the trading deadline coming up July 30th. If they were going to add any players, they really need to be a little in better position before that date. And so far, it has not gone the way they'd hoped.
Will general manager Perry Minasian soon be forced to make a decision to trade away some veterans before the trade deadline?
Yes, I think that's probably at the rate they're going right now. That's what looks like is going to happen. Raisel Iglesias is certainly a very attractive player for a lot of contenders. Alex Cobb has also done pretty well lately. They're both going to be free agents at the end of the year. If the Angels decide that they're not really going to contend this year, they definitely would do better to get some younger players that they would have in the long term in exchange for those two. You know, they're going to definitely have to play a lot better over the next week in order to convince Minasian to switch course and keep those guys and add some other players.
Does Ohtani look okay after his busy schedule during the All-Star weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I think he looks fine. He, it's too really small of a sample of games to judge. He certainly pitched great the other day in Oakland. 6 scoreless innings. You can't ask for any better than that. Offensively, he's not really been hitting homers at the same rate he did before, but I don't think he was going to do that anyway. Regardless of what he did at the All-Star break, I don't think he was going to keep up the same pace he had before. I mean, if he would have just taken 4 days off and done nothing, I think that he probably would have declined a little bit in the second half just because he was so hot. I think he had 16 homers in 21 games leading up to the All-Star break, which is impossible. That's like 130 homer pace. So there's no way he was going to keep that up. So I think he's fine. I think we need to wait really a little longer to see if in any kind of a slump.
Do you think Ohtani will get more days off in the last 2 months of the regular season?
I think that's the plan. You know, they're going to kind of wait and see if they get really into the pennant race and they really need to win games in September, then they might just play him all the time again. But I think they do have to start to be a little cautious because they don't want him to get hurt. You know, and he hasn't really had very many days off at all this year. So it's definitely going to be something to watch.
Tell us about the scoop you got about Ohtani donating his home run derby participation prize.
Yeah, it was real interesting to see that, everybody who participates in the home run derby gets $150,000. And Ohtani had decided beforehand that he was going to donate whatever he wanted to about 30 members of the Angels support staff, trainers, clubhouse workers, media relations people. You know, he obviously deducted what he was going to have to pay in taxes on that and split up the rest of it among those people. And what was really interesting was he decided he was going to do that before he knew that he was only getting $150,000. If he would have won the home run derby, he would have gotten $1 million. And apparently he still would have done it. So that would have been, $30,000 a person. So that would have been a pretty generous gift.
How rare is it that a player makes such a donation?
Well, I certainly haven't heard about it. It doesn't mean it hasn't happened, but there's a lot of guys that make a lot more money than Ohtani does. I think Albert Pujols last year, when a bunch of Angels employees were furloughed during the pandemic, I think he donated a lot of money to help pay their salaries. So, it happens. But, a lot of times it's with guys who are making, $20, $25 million a year. And Ohtani this year is making only $3 million.
What was your reaction when you heard that news?
Well, I wasn't terribly surprised because, it seems like he's the kind of guy that really is generous and cares about other people and is a very nice guy. And I'm sure everybody appreciated it.
I saw some fans complaining about strike calls against Ohtani in the last few games. What are your thoughts on those calls?
I don't really pay that much attention to balls and strikes. The umpires do the best job they can. It's a really difficult job, and things are going to even out in the long run. It's not worth wasting the effort to complain about a few ball and strike calls.
So you don't think Otani's being treated unfairly by umpires?
No, I don't think so at all.
Where is MLB in terms of using cameras and tech to call balls and strikes?
Well, they've been experimenting with it a lot over the last couple of years. They've used it in some minor leagues, and I think the general consensus, in my understanding, is that the technology is not quite ready yet, and you still end up with some strike calls that don't look right. And I think they're still working on it, but I do believe that we are going to have automated strike zone within the next 3 to 4 years at the latest.
What are your thoughts on such use of technology?
I mean, it wouldn't really bother me if they did that. I would be relieved to not hear the fans complaining as much about it, because I think there's more things important in the game to worry about than ball strike calls. But, if they also never did it, that wouldn't bother me either. Because like I said before, I don't really stress out about the umpires. I think that they're right a lot of the time, and they do as well as they can. And, it evens out between the teams. And there's a lot of situations where people like to look at an umpire and blame him for something, but it's really the players. I mean, the other day, Jose Suarez missed a call that should have been strike 3, and then he gave up a homer. But the homer he gave up was on a terrible pitch that was right over the middle. So he didn't have to throw that pitch either. So the players are ultimately responsible for their performance.
When will Mike Trout, Anthony Rendon, and Justin Upton be back?
Upton seems like he's the closest because he has already been on a rehab assignment. It's possible he's even playing today in Minnesota. Mike Trout is getting pretty close to doing a rehab assignment. That could happen in the next several days. And then a rehab assignment would probably last 3 to 6 days. So maybe on the next homestand. And Anthony Rendon is expected back around August 1st, I think. It's been hard to say so far with him. The injuries have taken a little longer than they hoped. So we still can't be too sure. But at the moment, that is what they're targeting.
Is there a chance Mike Trout will be used as a DH for the first few games after he comes back? And if so, will Otani play the outfield?
Otani will not play the outfield. I can tell you that. And I don't think that Mike Trout would be used as a DH. I think that if he's not ready to play center field, that they would just not bring him back. Because if they put Trout back in the lineup and take Otani out, they're not really helping themselves a whole lot. So they're better off just waiting a day or two till he can play center field and having both of them in the lineup.
Why don't you think Otani will play the outfield?
I just think that he hasn't really practiced it enough, and they don't really want to take the chance of him injuring himself out there. Don't want to take the extra effort that it would take to really train him to do it competently enough to where he could play it for an entire game. It's one thing to go out there for an inning, and it's another thing to play an entire game out there. I think if they get into September, they have 2 games in San Diego in September, and if they're really in the heat of the pennant race then, it's possible that they would put Otani out there for 9 innings. But before that, I don't think it's really going to happen.
What can Minassian do this season and in the upcoming offseason to improve the team for the next year?
Well, obviously they need better pitching. I don't know exactly which pitchers are going to be available, by trade. There's not usually difference maker pitchers out there that are available because their teams don't want to move them. So the best way to improve is to improve the guys you already have and keep developing guys that you have in the farm system, and just hope that you connect on some of the players you acquire from other teams. I mean, you look at the Giants, they didn't really acquire any big name pitchers over the winter, but a lot of the guys they got just through the same type of moves that the Angels make are actually performing very well. So it's not that what the Angels are doing can never work. It's just that it hasn't worked for them.
What makes difference in the development system, you think? What makes the difference between the Giants and the Angels?
It's not really the development system. The Giants' development has not been very good either. What I'm referring to more is the players that they've acquired from other organizations. And it could just be luck. If you decide that this player has a 40% chance of being good and a 60% chance of being not good, 40% of the time you're going to be in good shape and 60% you're not. So, it's just a lot of the odds that work out to these things. You can't really guarantee anything in baseball. So right now the Angels have not worked out so well with the guys they've acquired, although, Alex Cobb has been good. Dylan Bundy was good last year. Julio Teheran was not good. Jose Quintana was not good. So, I wouldn't say their track record is horrible, but they do need to get a little better in acquiring these guys.